Hello everyone, the Artificer here, and in this video, I'm going to show you one of the ways you can customize your Mythberry tiles. I will just be using 6 tiles for this to give you an idea of a small room. Now, I got a lot of the materials at the dollar store, so this should be fairly inexpensive. I figure most of your materials will be under $10 in total except for your primer. I just used a spray can for me, which was around $15, but that should do me hundreds of tiles and minis. For things you're going to need, I got tape, pen, and or pencil, a paintbrush, X-Acto knife, please be careful, your paint of choosing, and primer for whichever color you want to use. Oh, and don't forget your sponge for splotch effect. I also forgot to mention foam board that I will show later on. First, we're going to need to prime all of our tiles. I just taped the sides so only the top would get the primer. Should look similar to what I have shown. Now, I used plastic-like tape because it was thin and I've had it sitting in my drawer for years, so I figured I should try and use some of it. Once your tiles are all taped, prime the tiles and follow the instructions for what you're using. I will be using a stonework style tile, so I figured black was a better option for me. Once you have all the tiles primed, feel free to remove the tape. You can leave it on, however, if you wish. It doesn't really affect anything. And with that done, let's get to making our stamp. Look how pretty they already look. For the next step, you're going to want to grab your foam board and place it on a cutting surface. Please do not cut your table, floor, or anywhere that will get you in trouble. Measure out your tile and cut it out using your X-Acto knife. I just used the tile itself instead of measuring it. We don't need to bring math into this. Try keeping it as clean of a cut as possible and keep the phone intact. Take your time and use a sharp blade. Always double check that it will fit. With our square now cut, we need to remove the hard plastic and get to the good foam. Once again, grab your X-Acto knife, be very careful not to cut yourself, and peel away piece by piece until you have just the foam exposed. I enjoy doing crafts while listening to some music. Play something nice and relaxing, and just get into it. The time just flies by, and without knowing it, you've already gotten a lot of things crafted or painted. I wouldn't say I'm good, but I do find the more you practice, the better you get, so keep at it. Now that we got what we want, let's start making our design. First, I'm going to mark the grid. Now, this doesn't need to be done, but it means unnecessary painting not required. I'm using a pencil for this, because you don't have to put a lot of pressure to make your mark. Grab something straight, like a ruler, or just flip our tile around, and draw the straight line. You're going to want to cut just to the plastic. The plastic is what keeps everything together, so it's best not to break that. Next, start carving out unwanted foam. It's taking up space. This is very easily done with the tip of the blade. Just scrape away. Then grab your pencil and start drawing out your template. I will be doing a square stonework, but feel free to do whatever you want. They're your tiles and no one but you can tell you what to do. Once again, we're just trying to show the template and not puncture the foam. You can do wooden floors, grass patches, masonry, etc. Once you have it drawn, grab your X-Acto knife and start cutting the lines, once again to the plastic, but not through. Your lines don't need to be perfect either. Nothing in construction is perfect, no matter what anyone has told you otherwise. Now we need to give it a three-dimensional texture. I prefer a pen due to the ballpoint and less material getting on the new stamp, but start tracing it again with some force. This will add the depth. If you have a pen that isn't working or is empty, that's even better. The worse the pen, the better the friend. Be sure to also do the inside and outside. I found the pen cap very useful for this. Use a small piece for the center portion and the rounded main for the outside. Don't smush it too much, just enough so the square isn't so crisp and clean. Now that everything's done, we can get to stamping. One thing you can do too, if you want, is cut a small piece of the foam core, or even if you have a scrap wood piece, is hot glue it to the back of your stamp. That gives you something to grab, but for this, I opted out of the option. Grab your tiles, your paint, and paintbrush, and let's get to stamping. All we need is to paint the parts that bulk out. We want to avoid going into the crevices to have a nice obvious line. I mixed together a darker gray because I will come back later with a white sponge to add the last bit of textured color. Be sure to paint a semi-thick layer. We want this stamp to go a few times, but not make a mess and create a giant blob on our tile. Now each paint you do, you will be able to get a few stamps out of it. Just line it up and stamp. Be sure to put even pressure all over, and bam, you got your outline. Feel free to do some touch-ups, but not required. Move on to your second tile, spin it around with even pressure, and you got yourself another one. Now with this paint stamp, I was able to get 3 tiles done before I noticed it was getting weak. So what I did is paint it again and stamp 3 more times. Depending on your design, you might get some mixed results. Be sure to make clear lines that won't have any paint. The joy with this is that you can just keep going and reuse the tile a few more times if you wanted. If you notice a spot that needs touch-ups, feel free to go back, or if you notice some spots that have too much paint, take some off. Once the tile's dry, get that trusty sponge of yours. Get whatever color you want to splotch, and get to dab it. No, not that kind. The good kind. Before applying to the tile, just wipe it off on some scrap. Make sure you didn't grab too much paint. For this, you really don't need a lot. Adding flakes can add some character to the paint. Be sure to not add too much because it's not the main attraction here. Another option you can use, I find it has mixed results, is an old toothbrush. Just dab it in the paint and use your thumb. You can sprinkle flakes onto the tile. The paint I find dries really fast and gives decently good results. Now grab your berries, piece them together, and build to your heart's desire. Remember, artists, it doesn't need to be perfect. Only you will find your flaws, and if anyone points them out, they're either not your friend or some of your closest friends, and they're just joking around. Please keep crafting and have plenty of fun adventures.